ahead and call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Before we dig in, are there any changes anybody wants to make to the agenda? Hearing none, the first order of business is public communication. Any members of the public care to speak? All right, well, thank you for being here. Do you
introduce myself? I'm Elizabeth Armstrong. I live in West Addison, Lake Brook. And I have a petition out for a decrease in the taxes, property taxes by 25%. It's going very well. A lot of people are signing it. I just want to let this board know about it. You'll probably see a lot more of it and hear a lot more from me. The public is just fed up with the high school taxes. We can no longer endure them. We have to make some changes. You'll see a lot of my communication in the Addison Independent and on the Front Porch Forum. Thank you.
Thank you. You understand that we're not setting the budget for next year. Okay. And I did want to make a note about Front Porch Forum. I've been loosely following some correspondence, and I think Lori did a good job of responding. In general, our approach is that it's not appropriate for us to debate or have an exchange back and forth on forums such as Front Porch Forum or any social media for that matter. One of the problems is it creates the illusion of an illegal meeting, an unwarned meeting, because many of us are also members of these forums. It also creates a situation where individual board members now begin speaking on behalf of the board, a board that they may not have the backing of, and so I think Lori handled it perfectly. I do want to say, though, that I am concerned that anybody can post whatever they want on these things, that you can have a wildly crazy theory and just throw it out there and it's accepted as fact. I think this kind of goes along with the fake news that we often hear about, where people just say whatever they want, even though the facts absolutely don't support that. One of the things that I was concerned about that I do want to address here is, just as a point of information, some of us have been told that the new superintendent's office is costing us wildly over budget, that there were extravagant furniture purchases being made. That is absolutely not based in reality. You can't just throw theories out there and then test them later on, because when people read it, they accept it as fact, especially in this day and age. So I want to dispel those. We're actually around $10,000 under budget right now from moving, and the decisions to purchase new furniture in certain cases was made responsibly, often as a result of an ergonomic assessment to make sure that we have a safe workplace. So that's just one example of why we don't engage on Front Porch Forum, because it kind of degrades the intelligence of the discussion sometimes. So I just wanted to throw that out there and appreciate all of you for the restraint that you've had. Any other public communication? Yes.
Speaking to what you're just speaking about, I'm just curious if there is a way to address the misinformation, because people believe what they read. You know, whether it's fake news or not.
Yeah.
How do you as a board make known that the information is false, and also make known the correct information, especially around finances?
It's very tricky. I won't claim to have the answer. I do want to throw in one more piece of information on the furniture, that nearly all of that new furniture was paid for by a grant anyway. So another example of just wildly inaccurate accusations flying. It's really difficult to combat fake news. People can say whatever they want, and it's hard for us to respond. We're at a significant disadvantage. You could throw out the wildest conspiracy theories, and we have to technically wait until we have a meeting. I mean, if we wanted to address each of these, we should have a meeting, write some correspondence, the board agrees to it, and then post it, but you can't keep up with it. People will be on to the next 5 or 6 subjects. So I don't know how we compete with fake news other than just saying, please come here. If you're concerned about something that's going on, please come and see us. If there really is, if you see smoke and you think there's fire, we want to know about it. We're not trying to hide anything here, but don't make up smoke if there's no smoke. Come and ask us the questions first, and then if you're displeased, absolutely, you should go to social media, you should approach voters, do what you need to do. You've got constitutional rights, and nobody's broken the law here, but we have been subject to misinformation. So I don't know. I'm not sure how we combat that.
Do you think it would be worthwhile to develop a fact sheet centered around, finances and how this was purchased and how,
I think that's going to be a part of the budget development this year. I think that that's absolutely a good way to approach it, and hope that folks will come to us for their facts instead of people who are outside of the process and might not understand it.
Great, thank you.
Other public correspondence before we move on? Any other board member thoughts on that? I didn't mean to speak for all of you. I think that was a little bit of an editorial, but it represents the opinions I've heard from other board members with whom I've spoken.
I think everybody agrees with you.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's worth noting that they're not here tonight.
Right. Right. Okay, well, let's move on then off of public communication, hearing no further public communication. Reports to the board. I think we've all had a chance to read the superintendent's report. Anything you want, yeah, go ahead.
Could I just highlight a couple of things, Bill? At the time that I sent out the first incidental report, I didn't have my frequently asked questions about the transition to the new school district. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of pieces that we learned, and when you get a chance, certainly, if you have additional questions, please pose them to me, and I will get the Agency of Education legal counsel to help us with those. But the first is that on July 1st, when the SD board becomes operationalized, that the current boards really do not have any additional responsibilities, which means you do not have to have a purpose to meet. Should the SD board need the individual board for prior information or for some arrangements or decisions that had been made previously, you need to be available to the SD board, but there will be no longer any reason to meet.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Did you say after June 30?
After June 30, yes.
Audit? We don't need an audit report?
No, I'm saying the responsibilities of the current board, what their it would be transferred to the school district.
Oh, even though it's not their audit?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Thank
Okay.
you. Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
And a second point I'd like to make is that a merged district is dissolved as a matter of law and no action is required. That was a kind of a missed piece of information that I had previously received. And a motion of the board would not alter any of the district's existence, so there's no need to take action.
Right, okay.
Another point of interest is that we do have to hold annual meetings, and those annual meetings have to be held by both the new school district board and the current boards. But the only thing for the current board in terms of a line of business would be to report out on the condition of the school district as you have previously done. There's no action taken, there's no budget presentation. It is purely to promote the transition to the new school district, as well as to talk about the accomplishments of the district that you're
Okay.
leaving, okay?
Okay.
And there were, pardon? Yes, Michelle.
The audits for the year will be presented by the SD board then?
The audits for the year will be presented to the current boards for the current year. So you're talking about FY17 will be presented to the school district board.
All right, so that they will present it to the towns?
Yes.
At a meeting?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, that will happen that way. And there are some other points of interest that I don't need to spend any more time with today. You can read it. If you have any questions, please give me a call or shoot me an email. Okay, so I guess I should probably talk about elections. You're right, Glory. It would be really great for those of you whose position is supposed to expire in March to get out a petition and stay on your board until June, because you need a quorum and you need to finish out the year with the business that is at hand, such as, reviewing your expenditure reports and managing some of the other decisions that you do. So the request, and that's not in statute, it was recommended from the Agency of Education that, and there are quite a number of you, I think there are 6 or 7 open seats.
You get to do it one more time.
We respectfully ask that you do that one more time.
The best part about being on the board is having to petition for your,
Will you send us an email who's on that list?
We will. Good. We will do that. And actually, Glory and Tanya and I will be meeting with the town clerks in January to go over some of these pieces to make sure that they're well-informed and answer any questions that they might have as well.
okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for the superintendent?
I have something that's not on topic. I had asked you about it. I had gotten an inquiry from a para about another para who is a behavioral interventionist. And then I asked, because there was a salary question. The behavioral and interventionist made a lot more money per hour than the para. So I asked Joanne, I asked Glory, and she sent me a new salary schedule that was, I understand, came out of a grievance.
Hey, hold on, is this work that you're doing on behalf of the board or as a member of the public, just curious? 'Cause I don't remember us going over this.
Well, I guess I'm a member of the board because,
I'm
and
sorry,
let me get to
clarify
the
question.
point.
Was it done on behalf of the board, or is
What
it?
was what done on
Oh, go ahead, I won't cut you off, you can finish your thought.
Thank you. So I got a salary schedule, and my question is, I know we okayed that, the staff union contract when it came, and I remember that. But this is an addendum to that contract, and I don't have any recollection of ever okaying it. And I'm just curious as to why we didn't have to,
That was the grievance that was filed by the union,
right?
and I was one of the people that was on the board representation. Sue was with me, and Neil Kamen. And we met with them and the attorney, Chris Leopold, I think twice.
Okay,
And then it was recommended that Neil was at the expiration of his term, so he was leaving the board. So we were only two of us. It was recommended that the attorney deal with the union, and that it went in front of Sue as the board representative to give it our blessing, as it were. And at the recommendation of Chris Leopold, we agreed to that letter of memorandum.
Okay, and that's okay? I know we had to ratify the contract. This is an addendum to the contract. We don't have to ratify addendums?
This is
Doesn't make any sense to me. It's definitely an addendum.
that it's,
I mean,
It
we're
rose-
paying people based on it.
yeah, but it arose out of a grievance, and it was a grievance that we settled. The board authorized the three of us at the time to make whatever settlement we could negotiate.
Well,
I just
maybe
need to
that's how, maybe
clarify.
that's a,
I actually was not part of this grievance. I was a part of two other grievances, but not this one.
Oh, okay.
I forget who it was
I
then,
was-
George. It
yeah.
was you and Neil, and I thought it was one other person.
It was the three of us for the other two
Yep.
grievances. We dealt with two other ones,
Yep.
but it was-
did we follow the contractual due process for a grievance?
Yes.
Followed the contractual due process for the grievance. I think Laurie's question is, why don't decisions that happen at the end of grievances go back to the board? My experience is that it doesn't go back to the board because you're authorized
That's
to
right.
solve a problem,
Right.
which was done. I think a missing step could have been, and I don't recall, is that any outcome of that grievance should
Yeah.
have gone to the board, and I just don't recall whether it happened or not.
As a point of information, if we didn't receive it, it would have been ideal if
Right.
we had, yeah.
I-
But when we approved the contract in it, we approved the grievance process. And so that, as long as it stemmed from the grievance process, it's legal.
yeah. Could we just get a quick okay from Chris? I don't like amending a contract, even through the grievance process. It just feels wrong to me. How we can allow someone that's not just the board, and I get it, we have three people that are allowed to make a grievance okay for everybody, but to actually change the contract seems that's a board level thing. And I just, even if it's the way it is, it's perfectly fine, I don't have a problem with
I
it.
am an agent of the board, and I did work on this with the attorney and with the UNISERV director, and to finish out the process, which is what I was asked to do.
Okay, so could we get this is normal? I'm not questioning you, Joanne, I
No, this is
hope you don't.
This is normal. This process is normal.
To-
It might not be normal for this board, but the way in which I described it is where,
To have a grievance come and amend a contract?
yes.
That's normal.
That's what the side letters are all about. They are clarifications of the contract so that the
Right.
parties can be more clear about the intent.
And the board doesn't have anything to do with that, except
large-
through the grievance.
Except through the, you bestow that responsibility to the representatives of the board who hear the grievance. And it's an efficient way of doing it, because to try and find time for 12 people to sit around the table, which could wind up be 2 or 3 sessions with the association, just doesn't happen very efficiently.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the grievance process. It's the outcome of the process that I'm concerned about,
That
because
is
the
laid out
outcome
in
was
the-
to change the
But that's laid
contract.
out in your grievance process. is
That if it changes the contract, it's okay.
That's not how it says it.
Doesn't say it like that.
I think that's an interpretation of what happened. I see this as the proper execution of the grievance policy that was approved through the contract by this board. I mean, that's how I would look at it. If there are board members who want to pursue this further, we can entertain a motion and decide to pursue this further. But otherwise, the only thing I'm comfortable with just doing right now is asking for that to just come back to the board as a point of information next time, so that it may have already, it may have last time. I remember hearing about it, but I don't know for sure. Does anybody want to make a motion to pursue this further by having Chris Leopold come in and either present to us, educate, or for more research to be done on this? If you feel,
I think that if you pursue that path, you aren't going to change the outcome.
I'm not expecting to
I
change
would-
the outcome
I
at
would-
all.
right,
I would think
That's
that
not my point.
we should somehow formalize the fact that the appointed committee should report to the board afterward at the conclusion.
yeah, I think that's a good conclusion, just so that everybody knows. And like I said, it may have happened last time, but I'm not sure. I don't specifically remember. Okay, well, hearing no motion on that, I'm going to move on. At what point, Joanne, would you like for us to discuss the evaluation process? Can we do that now?
Board member report?
Okay, we'll wait until then. That's great. All right, business managers report. Tanya, anything that you want to, any highlights you want to give? Or-
Nope, we're looking pretty good so far.
Okay, I think all of you have heard that the audit is on track. Obviously, it's not done right now, but it's pretty close.
Yes, we do have, I spoke to Ron Smith earlier in the week, and he stated that the drafts are in process for the schools right now. They are, they're still working on them right now because of all the changes and all of the research and everything that they had to do to get them cleaned up from the previous audit, so.
Okay,
But we will have them before, all these before this budget is finalized and everything, so
okay.
we'll know what's going on with the individual schools.
I think George is going to ask exactly what I'm thinking. Go ahead.
You figure that you're going to have a surplus this year, but what about the cleanup of the previous year audit?
That's the
Is that
question.
going to eat up that surplus?
That's what they're working on right
Okay.
now,
Okay.
George. We've had several meetings with them about the extent to which they need to go back and to tie some things together. We don't have the answer to that. The schools' audits will be done before A&W, and I think the biggest concern was really around the A&W.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the largest one that
And
had some serious.
the other question that I have is, this is amounting to a considerable amount of additional work for the audit firm.
Yes.
We're in negotiations about the remuneration for that?
We can handle the additional expense because when we were doing the budget, we had not identified the auditors to do it, so we had projected a larger budget. We can absorb it.
They've already charged us for that additional work.
I-
And we're still under budget in the auditing line.
Good.
That's good. I think that's great. I think to continue on to what George was thinking, if there's a way to keep track of the additional costs that were caused by the improper work done by the previous auditor,
It was one charge.
okay. And is it substantial? Do you know, like, should we be seeking?
It's $5,000.
Okay, so, I mean, I think that's something that we want to talk about at some point, is whether we go after the old firm and just say, the lack of quality in your work caused us to have to spend an extra $5,000 this year of taxpayer dollars that we could have put to much better use. I'd like to pursue that. So I'm going to probably be in the office tomorrow, so what I'll do is do some fact-finding and then come back to the board with some thoughts, and we can decide if it's something we want to pursue or not, and, you know, maybe even get the thoughts from our attorney. And that's about all we probably should say in an open session. Okay, any other questions for Tanya? Yes.
So the transportation assessments, this is under the revenue summary. We're expecting that, right? The 384 and the difference?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the state place reimbursement, the 24,937, that's a nice surprise? Didn't have that.
You can't budget state-placed reimbursement.
It's just willy-nilly pell-mell, we can't, we don't assess it in the revenue.
We don't have any,
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what you're saying.
so state-placed revenue is, for state-placed kids, we receive, we get reimbursed for all expenses.
Okay.
You can't estimate, because you have no idea how many state-placed kids are gonna be in your district in a given year. So you don't budget for that. The AOE does not give you an estimated amount for that. So,
It's like the rest of education funding. We're having such a good time. Okay, so, I mean, in this case, it's a positive for us, because we got almost $25,000 worth more revenue than we were expecting.
yes. And I mean, all of the assessments are what we've received to date from the schools, so I'm always anticipating the full revenue, because you have to pay all of it, so.
Yes, I knew the member assessments were going to be there.
Well, the transportation assessment is the same thing.
Oh, that comes from the schools?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, Tanya, what do you want to tell us about the questionnaire? Or do you want to tell us anything about the questionnaire? Or maybe Joanne does, I don't know.
No, we were hoping that you had a chance to take a look at this. We did I think we've made some improvements
Yeah.
over the last year. I think things look good, and we're happy to answer any questions.
We don't have last year's, right?
You know, we did a spreadsheet last year that was like this big.
Yeah, it was
for
a
all-
big one.
Yeah.
I
So we
could-
did not do that again this year. We certainly could do it.
No, I mean, last year's copy.
Compare, that's what I mean, that's
that-
what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah, the comparison. This is pretty big and pretty small print, so I guess.
There was very little changes, because we've made all of the adjustments that we can, but you have to fill this out every year. So I did, the change that we did was under the school board training. Last year, it had been no, and I moved them all to yes this year, because the school board has done some training around finances.
That's right.
And then I just had to change some of the new employees' names.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, that was pretty much all the changes. And we're in compliance.
So is that all right, Bill?
Yeah, please
And
go
the
ahead.
board,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and this is, just so you're aware, the board has to take action whether to accept or not accept this. And then
Okay,
Bill
got it.
has to- And then Bill has to sign when
Sure.
you do approve.
Let's start with a motion then. Would anybody care to move to approve the financial, not report, survey, questionnaire, thank you.
I so move.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, discussion,
May I?
please do.
The student activity accounts, the auditors mentioned the student activity accounts as an issue. Do we have a plan changing any of that?
Yeah, when we get the new accounting software, they'll be all handled with in-house.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Do we have an estimated time arrival of that new software?
2019.
2019?
The implementation in 2019, we would be purchasing it in the next fiscal year,
Oh,
because it takes a full year to transition.
wow. That's a long time. Okay, that's 2 audit cycles. Okay.
Anybody have any other questions or information you might need before we can vote on this?
I would ask somebody that has good enough eyes to be able to read that to tell me that it's okay.
I've read it and I'll vouch for it, but that's just
Okay.
one guy.
No, I'll take your
I'll
word
vouch
for
for
it.
it, too.
Thanks.
I really wish that it was maybe in 2 pages. It could be big enough type.
George, if you stop by, we have really big poster board. We can put it on for
See,
you.
now she's just giving you a hard time.
I know that.
Magnifying reader.
Yeah.
Well, with the $5,000 we, never mind, sorry. Leave it alone. Get him in an official role here.
Yep.
Let's talk later.
Okay.
Take a
Okay.
picture and blow it up on your phone, you know.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. My phone isn't big enough to blow up that whole sheet.
Are you all ready to vote? The motion is to approve the financial management questionnaire. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. All right, it looks like we're on to board member reports. The only thing that I wanted to talk about is a brief gathering we had just before this meeting to talk a little bit about the superintendent evaluation timeline and process. Does everybody have a copy of this yet?
I did not
Okay,
send that out.
no,
I
that's
just
fine.
gave it- yeah.
So there are a couple of things that we wanted to talk about with this group, and we don't need to make a decision today, but I think we want to get you ready for some information that will be forthcoming. Joanne had, thank you. Joanne had, I can only do one thing at a time, so I'm going to wait. Joanne had given to us a draft schedule for what the process timeline might look like. And so it calls for us to do I'm just going to jump right to what our next steps would be. In February, to do a staff survey or 360-degree survey, which we should talk about in just a minute. And then by March, to receive from Joanne her reflections on the year's progress toward goals, and even a sort of a component of self-evaluation to see how she feels she's doing. With the goal of all of this information being able to come in and better inform us when we write our evaluation. I think one of the things we got as feedback last year was that we felt for some of the areas we needed to evaluate Joanne, we felt some of us didn't know enough about what had been done to make a judgment on that and to effectively evaluate Joanne on that. And so this year we wanted to make sure that we had more information. And we've talked about this a few times throughout the year. Joanne has had the chance to respond to her evaluation and talk to us about some of the areas that we didn't know about. And so I think the two things, then there's a third thing. We have to update the circa 1995 job description for the superintendent, because as it turns out, it's not the same job as it was in 1995.
Thank you.
Right. And it hasn't gotten easier, so just not to give away the ending. So let's start with the job description. The process that I'd like to see for this is, I just learned tonight that the Vermont School Boards Association, is it the School Boards Association? Okay, the VSBA is soon expected to have a boilerplate job description for superintendents. And I think it would make sense for us to wait and see what they come up with first.
Excuse me, Bill. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I didn't mean
Did I
to
speak
correct
out of
you.
line?
Yeah, but it wasn't a job description, it was the evaluation process.
Oh, that's, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Did
so
you
we
get
have a
that?
draft job
Process or the
description.
form?
The process and forms.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so let's talk about the job description. We have a draft job description that I'd like to forward to folks after maybe we can do it tomorrow by email. Give everybody a chance to look it over and come prepared at our next meeting to hopefully approve something, to approve a job description. I know it's tricky to do something like this, to edit a document by consensus at a public meeting, but I think it would be important for us to update the job description. So we'll get something out to everybody within, I don't know if we'll be able to do it tomorrow, but at
Lori
some
can
point.
do it tomorrow.
Okay, great. So take a look at that and be prepared to vote on that. George?
Question. How much input has Joanne had to that particular description?
Lots.
Okay.
Quite a bit.
I mean, who better to know what the job
Absolutely.
entails than the person doing it?
Yep. So I think what we will do then is we can look at the job description, look at the statutory requirements for the position, and then look at our own internal goals and expectations and make sure that the three of those meld together into a super amazing job description.
So would you like the whole packet
I think it would be helpful.
that Glory put
Please.
together for tonight to be sent to folks tomorrow?
Thank you, Glory. Okay, so now the evaluation process, I'm going to hold on that for a minute because I want to talk a little bit about, but just suffice it to say, maybe I don't have to hold. Let's just get this out of the way. Let's not rewrite the process until we see what the VSBA comes up with, because that might help us. But I think we do know that we want to talk about doing some kind of a survey and have Joanne give us some reflections on the year and her own self-assessment. So with the survey, we talked a little bit about doing a survey, and there were some concerns about that. One of them is, just to throw out a very quick example, Joanne might take disciplinary action with an employee, and it could be very appropriate disciplinary action, which results in that person being angry with Joanne for no fault of Joanne's. I'm not saying this has happened, but I'm saying it could, it probably has, but I'm not talking about a specific case. And that person could have those thoughts reflected in the survey, and those thoughts would not be very fair or accurate. And so you run the risk when you do a 360-degree evaluation of getting information that might not be fair. But you also lose a big piece of the picture if you don't try to do it. So I think whatever we do, we should start by deciding what are the questions we want answered, develop a survey that will answer those questions, and then use that as one tool to help inform our observations, not to use that as the evaluation. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Do we still want to pursue doing an evaluation or doing a survey of staff? Potentially, even if we do a 360, we would send something to the Agency of Education sooner rather than later, because we're not sure if we'll have the same secretary, but many of the staff will still be there. We would potentially send things to direct reports of Joanne. It's hard to find peers for a superintendent within a school district because you're peerless. How's that feel? But what are the thoughts on that? I mean, I'll shut up in a minute, I really will. But to do this right, I'm nervous because it's so easy to do this wrong and it's hard to do it right. So I'll be quiet now. Other thoughts?
Just a thought about the other two superintendents, because you work with them.
Closely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could go outside the district and just,
I mean,
it would be hard to, we'd have to aggregate those results because we're dealing with small numbers of people. It would be easy to figure out.
As you said, it's, all of that is input, and if you feel that there's an input that is inappropriate, you add a grain of salt to
Exactly.
it and dilute it a little bit.
That's right.
So that it doesn't have undue impact.
I think it confirms, or kind of, if you want to call it, denies some of my beliefs. So if I believe this is what's going on and this is what the direction is, and there's 6 other people who say exactly the same thing, okay, I'm pretty strong in then taking my opinion and saying that's exactly what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it might be different if there's 6 other people who are saying, no, that's not what I believe. Okay, then maybe I'll question it and I'll dig for other ways to represent that or find that information. But at least it gives me, you know, something to say, hey, wait a minute, question whatever I'm believing or thinking, when I might not have otherwise.
Absolutely, right.
The primary input that I have to this whole process is that we have to get it moving expeditiously because we ended up not being done when we should have.
That's right,
last
and
time.
April's our target.
That's right. So whatever you need to do to make it happen.
Sounds like there's general consensus to pursue some kind of a survey. Okay. Okay. All right. All right, let's move on then and talk,
Can
Yeah.
I just point out that our next meeting isn't until April, and we're going to, the job description in April? Is that going to affect the eval?
we'll have to, at the end of this, I think we're going to have to put together a subcommittee and empower them to do some of these things on behalf of the board.
Okay. Also, does this board need an annual meeting?
We've not had one in the past.
Never had one? No.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. We have a reorganization meeting, which we won't have anymore, but that's the closest we ever had. Okay, so then the next thought, is everybody okay with the process where Joanne, sometime in March, gives us her own self-assessment and reflection? Would that be useful information to the board?
Yes.
Yep,
Good.
Very.
absolutely.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to create a subcommittee for superintendent evaluation and empower that committee with developing a survey, and I want to be careful what we're actually having them do, but developing a survey and an evaluation process that will be brought back to the board for our to the individual school boards for their input into the evaluation process, to the actual evaluation. So let me back up, because I think I just saw Jason's eyes spin as I was saying that, because mine were too. So this would be a subcommittee with the power to create and implement a 360-degree survey and to develop a process for evaluation, but not to actually complete the evaluation. They would bring that data back to the individual boards. Does that make sense?
Bring it back to the individual boards or back to this one?
In the past, the individual boards have weighed in before the SU, so we don't have to do it that way.
Got it.
Let's start with a motion and then amend it if we need to. If you don't want to make that motion, you could certainly make another, because I don't know that I articulated it very well.
I so move.
All right. Gloria, did you get that?
I did,
Phew, because I don't want to have to repeat it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so let's continue the discussion. Is that the right motion? Do we want to have this group do something different?
Well, we had a committee started from the last meeting. I didn't know if you,
I do. My understanding, though, and I could be wrong, was that that was a committee to work with the new supervisory district to,
On an
on a
evaluation
seamless
system.
process between the
Oh,
two. Was that the case?
the minutes are, I don't have the minutes in front of me. So we could read what it said.
That was my understanding of it. I don't know that this group has empowered
To
a
work with the new
subcommittee.
board.
Yeah,
I
so there's a
can't
group
remember
to
that
work with the
wording.
new board.
Motion was made by me and seconded by Michelle to work with the school board to create an evaluation process and to have it completed by April 1st.
This is the SD?
This is the SU.
Oh, okay,
No,
so-
No,
To
sorry.
work with the
No.
school,
It's
school
the new
district.
School district,
Yeah.
Right, I'm confused.
not the union.
The union, it was the motion on the union's part, and it was to work with the SD board.
But
The
you're
SD
reading-
board has no power.
Are you reading from the supervisory?
Yes, this is the
Okay, this is-
supervisory union,
This is our, okay,
That's
thank you.
our minutes.
Okay,
yes.
And it's
yep,
you and Michelle and
and Steve.
Steve.
So you are
So-
so empowered.
So you're empowered
hold on.
already, so we don't need this motion.
Oh, to create an evaluation process. Okay, good. I didn't see that part. I thought that board was only empowered to meet with the SD. So we're good, we're covered.
But you're supposed to be complete by the 1st of April.
Well, you better start meeting. We actually did have a meeting just prior to this.
So
All right.
so the survey should be split apart from the evaluation process?
Correct. Yep. All right, so this group will develop a survey, get that out and back hopefully in February, so that by March we can start drafting an evaluation based on your feedback as well, bring it back to this group, hopefully for the board for the board meetings, the individual school board meetings in March, for a final approval in April. That'll be the timeline that I'll stick with.
Could I have just a point of clarification, Bill? When I have surveys done with the principals, I give them the results so that they can create a reflection on
Okay.
the year. So it would be helpful if I could
You
get
saw
that
that
information
before
and
we-
be able to put that in as
I
part of
think
my
that's fair.
package.
Okay,
So, just so I understand, you're going to create the survey, you're going to disseminate the survey, get the results back, collate those results, put it into this evaluation format, give it to the individual boards
in March.
who are going to do their evaluation and complete their evaluation so that this can all be collated and come to this board on the 1st of April.
I don't see any other way around it. I mean, it's gonna take us a while to develop the evaluation tool. We could speed this up by not doing the survey, but I think that's important to the board.
And if you work with Glory, she can put it on Google Forms and it does the collating right away. I mean, the
Okay.
technology will create a report. You don't have to spend any time organizing that.
I'm hoping that this group can create a draft evaluation for you so that in March, the individual school boards can look at it and add their thoughts to it, or say, you're way off base, or we generally agree. So that way, when we do meet in April, we'll be prepared to actually approve that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really important, Bill, that we know in March, when we meet as the individual boards, that what we will be doing is doing the evaluation, not just getting the form and thinking about
Right.
it, but get that form ahead of time so that the work is at
Good
the
point.
March meetings.
So that's a really good point. So make sure you read what is sent to you ahead of the meetings, including what Glory will send out tomorrow, because all of this, what happened last time is it took a while to collect the thoughts of the individual boards. So once we got that all finished, then we were done. We were well on the way, and luckily we didn't have a whole lot of variation. Luckily the boards were kind of on the same page. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Just as a point of clarification, if you vote yes, then that will supersede the motion we already approved last time. If you vote no, then the motion that we already approved last time will prevail and continue.
Can we ask the motionee to withdraw?
Doesn't work like that in Robert's rules, I'm
Oh.
afraid.
You
Motion's
can't
here.
withdraw a motion.
Not under these
Once it's seconded?
circumstances. Yeah. Okay.
Not under
And
these
how is this motion
circumstances.
different than the last?
Yeah,
Can you
what-
clarify?
This one
Okay.
includes
Last
the
one specified
survey.
the people, this one hasn't, which it should have, but it didn't.
That's the only difference.
My advice as the moderator is to seriously consider whether you want to approve a second committee, a second subcommittee right now. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have made the motion, or I shouldn't have asked somebody to make the motion. But I do want to follow Robert's rules. All right, the motion to create a subcommittee for the evaluation of the superintendent. All in favor of doing that, please say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion does not carry, and I'd like for the notes to reflect that in discussion, we've decided that it was already approved last time, because I don't want somebody to read it and say, oh, you did not approve, this was voted down. It was voted down because of that. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the clunky application of Robert's rules. I like things to be smoother, but I failed you. What can I say? Right. Okay, any other board member reports?
Where does this leave the survey? I'm sorry.
This group will create the survey, the group
It
from
just,
last
it didn't
time.
have to be included.
It's a part of the evaluation process,
Perfect.
yeah. Okay, let's move on to action items. Approval of minutes from the October 19th meeting. Is there a motion?
And we approve the minutes of the October 19th, 2016 meeting.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
I just had one, all right. I'm sorry.
Had
I'm
one.
trying, I had one.
Maybe Glory fixed it on you and you didn't know.
Was the one you emailed?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was under.
postponed instead of proposed. Okay, never mind.
Got it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Matt?
Mr. Stessel pointed out that my name's wrong.
Your name is wrong.
Did they spell your last name wrong?
Mark.
Mark?
It's my handwriting, I take blame.
I think before we make the change, we'll need some identification, sir. Don't worry about it.
Mark, you have a brother?
Sorry, Matt.
Mark, yep, that's right.
There you go.
Any other changes?
Nope.
All right. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the amended minutes are now approved. Approval of bills and directors' orders. Thank you. I'm going to confess that I have not had a chance to go in. I will be there tomorrow morning, so I can't vouch for these specifically, but can promise you that if I see anything out of the ordinary, I will bring it to you by email tomorrow afternoon. What's the dollar amount?
$826,029.75.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, thank you. Second. Any discussion? And this is for the months of,
October, November, or it's the last day of October.
yeah,
November and December through the 16th.
got it. Perfect. Okay.
Roughly a month and a half.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion has been approved. And hearing no further business, we are adjourned.